Welcome everybody. This is the second time that I've presented this semester. The first time being, I think, as most of you who came remember, how to make an impression on people. And I think I did a pretty good job with that presentation, but I don't know. People seem to like the slideshow anyway, so that's good. So what we'll be talking about today is analysis of games. And let me just start off with, let's just do a little activity here. Have you ever heard? Have you ever heard, I hate this game. I hate this game a lot. This game is shit. This game is absolute shit. And I cannot believe that any soul could conceive making such a pile of shit before. How about, I haven't played it, but it looks bad.
Wind Waker.
These are, as gamers, we've heard variations of these and used variations of these ourselves. But why exactly have we used blanket statements like this? Blanket statements like this sort of coat the game in a negative light and keep us from playing it. Typically, some of the answers to this question of why do we make these harsh criticisms would be a trusted word. So you read a review in Game Informer or in IGN or Metacritic, something like that, and it says, this game is bad because I really didn't enjoy it. It had these particular aspects of it that were really bad, but it's a sort of subjective thing. When you read a review, you're reading somebody else's opinion and you're sort of attaching to it. Another reason why you might make a harsh criticism is bias. We have console fanboys, I'm sure, in the audience. I am a console fanboy myself. In terms of, I like consoles over PCs, not necessarily I like 360 over PS3, but I don't necessarily let that hinder my judgment on playing games like, Amnesia, Dark Descent, and things like that. I don't say it's a pile of shit because I can't play it. My PC doesn't really run those things. But in this instance, bias really kind of impacts how you think about some games because if you had that Super Nintendo when you were a kid and your friend next door had a Sega Genesis and you thought Sonic was the fucking coolest thing ever, but you didn't want to admit it, you tell him that game's a pile of shit. And then Super Mario Brothers was kick-ass compared to what he could, play on his stupid Sega Genesis. So this is an example of bias sort of impacting why we make harsh criticisms. A negative experience, sort of traumatic in many ways. Maybe you were in an uncomfortable situation. Maybe somebody really annoying was playing the game with you and sort of on your shoulder, backseat gaming. That sort of thing can really affect whether or not you like a game. Personally, I've had a negative experience with the Assassin's Creed series. I find that there's one particular mechanic where you can only jump in certain directions, and so if I wanted to jump to a pole that was here, for some reason he would jump 45 degrees this way, and then I would fall to my death. And that really just kind of turned me off to the series as a whole. And I sort of, had I actually gone with that negative experience, kept it in my mind, it probably would have developed into this pure hatred of the franchise in general. But I still buy the games and I still play them because I want to experience sort of what they can offer in terms of ramping up in scale. Wrong demographic. So if you're playing Hello Kitty Island Adventure and you are a Halo gamer, you're probably not going to enjoy it as much as people who it was actually made for. This sort of ties in with wrong mindset, which is another thing that people will also use in defensive argument when you say that their favorite game is a piece of shit, is that, oh, you weren't playing it in the right mindset. You weren't set up for it. This is also a personal issue that you can kind of feel. When you go into a game, if you have low expectations for it to begin with, you sort of set the bar of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The game's going to be shit because you think it's going to be shit. I have played Duke Nukem Forever, and I thought it was the biggest piece of shit, but it was because so many people had told me it was a big piece of shit. The game's actually okay. Like, it's playable to an extent. And that's not a bad thing. It's a mediocre game, but people made it out to be such a horrible thing that when I played it, I just thought I was in hell for some reason. It just seemed awful, just god-awful. Another thing is misconception of content. Now, some of you may know a member of EGAD's, Melody Bolton, and she had some sort of run-in with this misconception of content where I insisted she try to play Viva Pinata because I thought she would like it. It's a cutesy game, it's got all of the nice aesthetics, and it's sort of a Sims-style game. She loves The Sims. And she insisted that she not play it because when she saw the commercial for the game, she thought that you played as a pinata who ran away from people. Which, I mean, okay, yeah, that's probably a game somewhere. But because the game actually had nothing to do with what the advertisement had to deal with, she insisted that she not play it because she was disappointed. It wasn't about you running away from people as a piñata. It was about you caring for piñatas in a farming environment. Eventually, I tricked her into playing it, and she loved the game as a whole. It was a fantastic game, and it still is a fantastic game. So these particular things can sort of lead you into a realm of negative expression when it comes to talking about games that either you've played for only a little bit or you haven't really thought too much about, but you touched it for maybe 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and you thought it was the biggest waste of time. Don't get me wrong, there are still games out there that sort of show this, but we'll address their importance later when it comes to analysis. So before we begin, do me a favor and set aside your disdains for just a moment. Kind of leave all of your judgments at the door, try to be open-minded. There will be a game in here somewhere that is a huge pile of shit, or at least seen as one, and it's actually a very beautiful game in my opinion. So I'll be sharing that with you in terms of analysis. And answer a question for me real quick. What is a video game? Anybody?
Culmination of writing, art, sound design, and entertainment.
Okay, very good. Ron?
It's a board game on a TV.
Okay, good. Anybody else want to take a whack?
It's a program that takes user inputs and does something with them to reward the user. And the more complex the inputs are, the more complex the outputs are, then the more rewarding the game.
Okay, fantastic. And your name was?
Nick.
Nick, okay, cool.
It's kind of like an interactive TV show.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely... See, there's a very broad sort of definition that people have, and all of these are correct answers. So, Jeffrey, did you have a...
Yeah, he sort of stole mine.
Okay. Anybody else before we move on? All right. Well, this is the short answer of what a video game is. A game played by electronically manipulating images produced by a computer program on a television or display. But more interesting, what a debated answer is for this is an interactive artistic experience expressing specific concepts through the act of manipulating images produced by a computer program on a television screen or monitor.